So tonight, we're going to take somebody who got a gain of $100,000 per year total comp. So that's over $400,000 over their 4-year package, from their initial offer to their final offer. Okay, so plus 100 and plus 400, depending on how you look at it. And we're going to take a look at it to see what we can learn. And before we do, hi, I'm Kevin. I've done this a lot in the last couple of years. This is something that I really enjoy doing. And at this point, it's something I have a specialty in. Like it or not, I'm going to be doing it for a while. I also trained with a really smart former FBI hostage negotiator, and he's where I learned a lot of the stuff that I use. Okay, so we're pretty much into the intro right now. It's about 5 minutes in, so we're going to go a little bit over for the intro because we're at the intro right now. We're going to do the case study for about 40 minutes. We're going to do Q&A for about 15, and then we're going to party on Discord after this is over for a while. This session will be recorded and it will be shared publicly, but we cut out the spicy bit so I could say whatever the fuck I want. Like that. We'll cut that out later. Okay, so a case study. Why a case study? A case study because if you take a narrow micro look at an important topic, sometimes you learn things you wouldn't have seen if you took a macro look. So negotiation is very complicated, but with this specific lens we're taking, what we're asking you to do is step into the shoes of the engineer who this story is about and pretend that you're this engineer when you get asked curveball questions. The whole night is about what would I do when I'm asked curveball questions, and it's set up like challenges. You'll see, you'll get it in a sec. So the players are an engineer named Jake, who's a senior engineer, and a company named eCorp. eCorp is a FANG company, and Jake is cool. Okay, so this is the theme of tonight. Every time you see this pop up on my screen, I want you to think in the shoes of Jake. What would you actually do? How would you actually respond? You'll get a lot more out of tonight when you see these curveball challenges if you put yourself in the shoes of the person doing it. I also encourage you to react to these curveball challenges in the chat. And I don't know what you're going to like more, reacting in the chat or reacting to other people's reactions in the chat. It's going to be a good time. Then when you see the key takeaways, these are the things that we've determined are going to be the most practical things that you can leave with today. So once again, when you see the key takeaways, maybe you'll like to react in the chat, and maybe you'll like to react to other people's reactions in the chat. But the whole thing is meant to be a lot more interactive than all these other webinars have been. Okay, so what do we have for ingredients? This is a senior engineer sometime this year. They're aiming for a total comp of $440,000 per year, not first year. They have leverage. They have an offer from one company, eCorp. They have another offer coming, and they have one company who's at a hiring freeze. So in terms of leverage, besides offers, they have not shared information with eCorp about timeline, nor have they told eCorp anything about money, nor have they told eCorp anything about other interviews. I forgot to say, sorry, going back one slide because we have to just say this real quick. If you have a question that you definitely want to get answered, put it in the Q&A function. At the end of the meeting, I will sort them by most upvoted, and then we will rank from top to bottom, and we will answer them in order. So if you really want it answered, put it in the Q&A function. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is scene number one. eCorp gives Jake the offer details and throws a few curveballs. Here are the initial numbers. We got 200 base, we got 600 equity, we got 70K signing bonus. That's a 4-year average of 365. But here are the curveballs. Remember, this is where you put yourself in Jake's shoes. What would you do? So the curveball number one, hey, sorry, this offer is going to expire in 2 weeks, no matter what. There's nothing I can really do about it. It's company policy. What do you think when a company tells you that? Also, the recruiter decided to dig in about all their other interviews, but about one company in particular, the company at the hiring freeze. What would you be thinking if a recruiter did that to you? And lastly, the recruiter almost plays the role of a stripper here and says, most of my clients aren't as attractive as you are, but you're really special. The recruiter is essentially saying, we usually can't get this much money for most engineers, but you're special, so we got the offer higher. What would you be thinking if a recruiter told you this? that usually they can't go this high, but they went higher for you. I agree. Yeah, you're not special. Exactly. Good. That's what I would take too. Okay. So this is the most common question I get as an engineering, negotiation coach. Should we start negotiating now? Okay. So this is actually better as a curveball. Let me ask everybody in the chat. Okay. Do we start negotiating with eCorp now? Why? No, didn't Josh? No, Josh. Yeah, we wait. We don't have enough information. Should we start negotiating with eCorp now? Remember, what did I say? I said there's an offer coming, one offer coming, not eCorp, the offer coming. If you have one offer and you have another offer on the way, but you don't know what the other offer on the way is yet, do not negotiate yet, because if the offer that's coming, if part of it is really good, it changes what you would ask the company for. When I say part of it, what I mean by that is maybe the base is high, maybe the signing bonus is high, maybe the equity is high, or maybe there's another part of the offer that's high. Amazon, for example, gives really big cash bonuses that makes it really easy to negotiate with other companies, because you say, hey, your company offered me this. Usually it's a little bit lower in cash in the first couple of years because Amazon, they know what they're doing. And then you can position, I have this thing from Amazon. Can you increase your cash? Because this cash is really high. The same thing could be true for any other offer. If something's really good, then you would go to the company and say, hey, this part's really good. Can you increase that part? But if you start negotiating without getting that information of that really good cash heavy Amazon offer or that really good signing bonus from some other company, then you're negotiating too soon because you don't have the ability to say that yet. So the essential lesson is, what do you say to make them wait? You say, I haven't gotten all the data yet. I'm still waiting for some stuff to come in. I'd be happy to revisit this in a few days when it's ready. It's really not complicated. Once you remember that you're the one with the power and you're not groveling at the knees of a company to do something that you want to do, you just tell them what you want and they do it. And you're not an asshole either. You just tell them what you want and they do it. Let's wait and see. That's essentially it. What do I have to bargain with? Before I start bargaining, I want to know, what do I have to bargain with? No, they do not need to see the Amazon offer. They say this all the time. It does not benefit you to show a company the actual offer unless every single part of the offer is stronger. If I have a $500,000 total comp offer from Amazon with a $200,000 base and a, I don't know, 320 total cash in the first year, and I compare that to a Facebook total comp offer of 400 with a base of 180 and a total cash in the first year of 220, then yeah, I could show Facebook the entire offer from Amazon and say, hey, look, here's my offer. But if there's any part of that offer that is weaker, it will hurt me to show the company the full offer letter. So do not show it. This is the golden rule. Do not show it unless it helps you. Okay, scene number, the next scene. We ask eCorp for an extension. Okay, some interesting curveballs here. The recruiter says, hey, it's the comp team's call. I really don't have anything to do with it. And you can try, you can ask, but you won't get anything more than a week extension. What would you be thinking if a recruiter told you that? I don't really have anything to do with it. It's actually out of my hands. And you're not going to get anything more than a week. Yeah, you don't. It's hard to believe that they have nothing to do with it. It's really hard to believe they have nothing to do with it. Well, the recruiter asked, what else can we do that can help you make a decision? What are they really asking for when they ask that? It'll take a week, Dan, for us to put this on YouTube. Give me time, maybe? Yeah. Oh, and exactly. They're asking how much you want. They're asking you, when they say, what else can we do to help you decide? They're saying, are you going to negotiate yet? So we're getting into the curveball challenge again a little bit too quick. I'm going a little bit too fast, but is it actually something the recruiter has nothing to do with? A timeline? No, it's not the comp team's decision. The recruiter has something to do with it. A recruiter might say you won't get more than a week, as Sam alluded, because it's not true, or because if I tell you, hey, you won't get more than a week, and then you get more than a week, I'll be your hero. You'll love me. But if I don't say anything, and then you get more than a week, then you won't be as happy as if I had said that. So it's about hedging your bets. That's why they say that. So this is the point down here that somebody just answered in the chat. When they say, what else can we do to help you make a decision? What they're really saying is, hey, do you want to start negotiating it? Now, if you take nothing else away from tonight, negotiation is a big game where they're sizing you up the whole time and they're seeing how often does this person do this and how good are they at this? What's their competence level at negotiating? So yeah, the second point here we'll talk about in a second about this negotiating from the game perspective. But this is another good takeaway for us to have here. People who pretend to have the most amount of power have the least. And the people who pretend to have the least amount of power have the most. Whenever a hiring manager says, hey, it's not up to me, I have to run it by the other people, they might just be being smart and diffusing the responsibility so they won't be the bad guy. So smart negotiators, whether it's a candidate or a company, they say, hey, it's out of my hands. I got nothing to do with it. Because if it comes down to you not getting what you want, then they don't have to be the bad guy. Now, how do you play the game so you seem like LeBron? Somebody who's been there before, somebody who's comfortable, somebody who knows what they're doing. You answer, do you need anything else to make a decision, with something other than starting to negotiate? What does that mean? You do discovery. The best way to do discovery is to make a question sheet. A question sheet is a sheet of questions about the things that you care about. Maybe it's culture. For me, one thing I like to ask about is, hey, the last time something happened and the culture took a little bit of a hit, what concrete actions did the leadership team take about it? Another question I like to ask is, what are the unwritten rules of people at this company that pretend to get promoted? Hiring managers love that question. In the first 90 days on the job, what are 3 things this person can do that would make you ecstatic that they joined the team? And the cool thing is, if you ask 3 levels of the organization the same questions, skip manager, manager, and a peer, you'll get to see how well the company communicates when you compare their answers. But also, if you get an offer from a different company, you can compare the answers between the companies. So now you can compare intra-company, inside the company, and inter-company, as in, between companies. And then we're going to get into questions about the offer, mainly for the recruiter. I don't have a question sheet. I should make one. That's a great idea, but I don't have one to share. So these are the types of questions that you can ask the recruiter. Walk me through how you came up with my offer. It sounds scary, but it can elicit a lot of information. You can essentially learn what is important to the company and what they like about your skill set. Anytime you can hear feedback, you can learn more about how much leverage you have. If you don't know what level you're being considered for, you don't have enough information to start negotiating. If you can be slick and get the pay bands, you literally have the answers to the test. So we always want to ask about the pay bands. And if the offer doesn't include something, ask them why it doesn't include something. There's old school negotiation books that take it even further. Remember, you can be as aggressive as you want if you ask nicely. Anything in life can be accomplished with you asking nicely and being aggressive. So it can get even more aggressive than this. You could even say, why this salary? Why this equity package? Just like how I'm saying it right now, not why this equity package, why this salary, but why this salary? Yeah, you can be as aggressive as you want as long as you ask nicely. Okay, this is not the situation that our client went through in this case. In the case study, he was not negotiating with a startup. He was negotiating with a FANG company. But for all you out there who have never worked for a startup, if you get an offer from a startup, you get this monopoly money thing in your head. And it's great. Like lottery tickets are great, but you want to be able to realistically assess what your equity will be worth one day. If you've never worked at a startup, the first thing to do is go to tldroptions.com and look up their equity visualizer. It's really cool. You can see 89% of companies don't exit, 4% will make you a little bit of money, 7% will make you actual amount of money, or no, 4% exit low, 7% make you money. And you can actually plug in the series of the company, how much equity you're getting, and then they'll calculate how much money you could get in different scenarios. And they make it really really easy. Like if the company exits like Zillow did at 332 million, then you'll get paid this much. So this is the first website to start with, tldroptions.com. But then to go one level deeper, if you wanted to find out for yourself a more granular look at what the equity will be worth, you ask a company these 5 questions right on here. And I'm not going to stay on this slide, but you can take a screenshot or do what you need to do. They might be weird about the strike price or the share price, but it's kind of sketchy if they won't tell you. So, okay. Recruiter asks for a check-in call. This happens all the time. We're going back to the case study now, the real engineer here, Jake versus eCorp. So the call was mainly questions about timeline. And then the recruiter ends up extending the deadline on the phone call. But hold on, I think this is a good curveball challenge here. What do you notice about the operation, the order of operations of these events? First, the call was mainly questions about the timeline. Then the recruiter ends up extending the deadline on the phone call. What do you notice about the series of operations here? Nothing matters. Yes, I'm a nihilist too. I agree. But beyond that, yes, thank you, Steve. The recruiter had permission all along. Isn't that funny? The person who said it was completely out of their hands and they had nothing to do with it, looks like they have something to do with it. Then the underlying part. What do you notice about the underlying part? That I think these two things are basically connected. And Steve basically hit it on the head. Good job. Yeah. Okay, takeaway. Hey, I love you all if you're here tonight, but this is where a lot of you drop the ball, okay? If you think this is what we've been teaching, you haven't been paying attention. It's not about not sharing information. Sharing too much information being bad and not sharing any information being good. That is not what we're teaching. We are teaching you to not share too much actionable information early. That's what you want to avoid. And then what you want to do is not share any actionable information too early. So it's not about information. It's not about talking to the recruiter and being nice and asking them stupid fucking questions like, how was your weekend? What was the dog like that you said you were babysitting? You said your cousins were in town. The value of you doing information sharing and information giving that is nothing to do with the deal, the little niceties of human interactions, they make it 7 times more likely for the recruiter to do what you want them to do, whether it is going to the comp team a second time, whether it is getting you more money, whether it is going out of their way in their process to do something that benefits you. They're 7 times more likely to do it if they like you. The value of rapport is on the screen and it cannot be overstated. So the reason that I'm saying this is because we can share information. We can share a lot about us and what we're feeling and what we're thinking, and we can ask them stuff too. But where we want to be smart about what we don't share is actionable stuff. Actionable stuff is about time, money, and other interviews. And we can still be nice and share, but not share actionable stuff. That's the whole model. That's literally the whole model. That's everything we're trying to teach. Okay. Just to drive the point home here, negotiation is like dating. You withhold information to gain a positive perspective or perception. Negotiation is like dating. You withhold information to gain a positive perception. You don't play your cards too early, and you delay the climax for as long as possible. Nobody thought that was funny? All right. Well, what are you going to say? Okay. But this is true. You're withholding a little bit of stuff that the other side doesn't need to know right now, the actionable stuff that they don't need to know right now. You don't want to throw everything out on the table too soon. You don't want to negotiate too soon. You don't want to talk about marriage too soon, whatever, or you'd be getting out of a bad relationship too soon. And you want to delay the climax for as long as possible. The obvious thing here is that if you do this, I'll sign today. That's the climax. And in dating, okay. Next scene, a challenger appears. So we get our other offer, the offer that we were waiting for, 150 base salary. We got 500K equity, but it's a private company. It's a Series C startup. So remember, our initial offer from this FANG company, it's going to take a while, 200K base and 600K equity. So every part of our current offer from the FANG company is actually bigger and is actually better than the competing offer that we have from the startup. So this leads me to the next curveball challenge, which pretty much everyone in this room is probably wondering. I've heard this question at every single webinar. I get asked it all the time. And so if you were Jake, be thinking, how can I use other offers that aren't high to negotiate a higher salary without revealing actual numbers of the lower offer? So what do you say? How do you do this? You don't need to write the whole counteroffer in the chat, but what would be the core message of how you would do this? Okay. Yeah, okay. But we want to negotiate, right? We want to negotiate. Mention you have another offer. Thank you. Navjot, you just won the game. You just say that you have another offer. Okay, so here's, I don't know too many negotiation coaches that would actually show you how they write a real counteroffer. I'm essentially losing money left and right by letting you do my job and automating the work that I do and giving it out to the people for free. But this is me writing a real counteroffer for you all to see how it works. So I'm just, this is beyond showing you a look behind the curtain. This is like, we're breaking the stage and I'm showing you how to rebuild it or something. So this is how you write a counteroffer. Thank you for your time and energy. I am excited about this opportunity because I usually write this as a blank and then engineers fill it in. Oh, this is going to be bad with all my typos. Oh no. Okay, because blank, but in this case, we'll say because of the impact and growth. Okay, so we always start off with a nice compliment, just like this. And then we always have a nice sentence framing the negotiation in a positive light. There are a million ways to do this. The way that I usually do this is, let's work together to find a comp package that works for both sides. So it's very important here. I'm not saying, let's start negotiating. Do you know how stupid that would sound? You know how heavy-handed that is? Instead of saying it like that, you make it sound like a cool project that you want to work with them on. Hey, let's work together to find a comp package that works for both sides. They're like, of course, I'd love to do that. Sounds great, right? Okay. Then, to be transparent, I am at the early stages of my job search. I just got another offer from another tech company. And would it be impossible to meaningfully increase the, let's say, total comp? That would make me more interested in eCorp. Okay, so sometimes I dress this up. Sometimes these are a little bit longer. You'll notice the no-oriented question here. People, bad salesmen, have been driving you to yes for 30 years. They'll say, hey, do you want to go on world-class vacations? Do you want to have better sex? Do you want to drive a Ferrari? When you hear people say questions where you know they want you to say yes, you feel like you're on the hook for something. So in that same way, can you do this? Would it be possible to do this? Those questions end in you hopefully saying yes as the answer. So when we ask questions that are designed for them to say no, it's actually easy for them to say what we want them to say. So sometimes these are a little bit longer, but this is actually not too bad for a good skeleton. I'm taking a little bit of a risk here because I'm not naming any numbers at all. Normally people might say, would it be increase the total comp to blank? That's the less risky move here, but I decided to go for broke here. So I just didn't name a number. Okay. Okay. Curveball challenge number 6. What would we do if we were Jake? Why impossible? I just said why impossible, baby. You got to listen, F. I just said it's a no-oriented question. People are more likely to say no when we ask no-oriented questions because people like control. People don't like saying yes. So I don't like asking questions that involve them saying yes. Do you all not know what I'm talking about? All right. Curveball challenge number 6. Put yourself in the shoes of Jake. The recruiter says, hey, I need more data for the comp team. What is the recruiter asking? On one hand, they're saying, hey, buddy, you didn't tell me how much you wanted, which I totally get. but they're also saying, hey, show me the other offer details. That's what this is implying. Give me the data. Show me the offer letter. Tell me what the stuff is. And this you all fuck up all the time. And it's so simple. Watch. This is what we say when they tell us to give them more data. Okay. I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing because this company might get offended about candidates using their offers to show other companies. Here's what seems reasonable to share. Please share with the comp team that E Corp can make this offer more competitive by increasing the base to blank and the equity to blank. I'm only not putting the numbers here because let me know what the finance team says. Okay, so I actually have to say, I'm not putting the real numbers here for other reasons. The person that this is based on, we want to obfuscate anything about them. So that's why I'm not gonna put the real numbers, but let's just say it was 100. And let's say it was 100. We would never do this, but just for nice, easy numbers. What this is implying is my other offer is this much. It doesn't say my other offer is this much, but that's what it implies. So we always bounce the ball back to another person whenever we're in a kind of situation where they're asking us for something and they're trying to corner us. We always bounce it back to them like, here's what you can tell the finance team. Let me know what the finance team says. You kind of have to, I guess it's a little bit of jujitsu here because you're letting them give me the comp team stuff. Fine, tell your comp team this. So it's kind of complicated, but once you get the basic feel of it, here we're saying we're not going to give that to you, but then we're making a concession like, but since I'm not giving that to you, I'll give you this instead. So that's it. Okay. I'm not sure where to tell you where the Q&A function is, but it's if you find the chat, it should be next to that button. Yeah, it's right next to the chat button. Okay, so shit hits the fan. We hear from the recruiter. We don't have the budget for that. We hear from the recruiter. What you're asking for is way more than what the current offer is, dude. And what we also hear is, here's the question from the poll. Hey, what if we could hit 430 to 450 for total comp? Would you make this a done deal? So what do we do here? We obviously are going to learn in a second, but put yourself in Jake's shoes. They're saying they don't have the budget for this. They're saying, hey, your ask is really high. And they're saying, hey, what if I do this instead? Could we get this done today? What would you be thinking? David Ho, my favorite person of all time, is in the chat. Hi, David. Banker, David, banker. Not sure yet. Haven't gone to the comp team. Need more. Yeah, but Josh, this is your first push, man. This is your first push. If they're willing to go to 450 on the first push, that means you probably could get more. Okay, so the engineer figures out, hey, man, the way that the recruiter is talking about TC is different than how I'm talking about TC. Okay, now everybody's on the same page and we're working together. So we tell a recruiter, hey, here's what we want to focus on. And now we're all speaking the same language. Then we tell them, okay, fine. And this is a good lesson for everybody in the chat. Okay, you can't do what we asked for, but make me your most improved offer and I'll give it my best consideration. That line is probably worth $20,000. That line alone can get you $20,000 more if you're a senior engineer per negotiation because it sets off your necessity to decide. They'll be like, hey, if I do this, can you do this? You're like, look, do your best and I'll give it my best consideration. So you're not saying yes and you're not saying no, but you're putting it off onto them. Lastly, what would make this a done deal? I think in this case, we also mentioned something about, we also ideally want to hear back from the company that's on the hiring freeze. So we can't say what a done deal would be. Okay, Now, do not mess this up. Anytime a recruiter says they'll see what they can do, stop talking. Shut your mouth. Let them go do the work for you. They're literally saying, I'm going to go try to make you more money. Let them. I've been on a negotiation call with an engineer when the recruiter said this, and the engineer just kept going forward with their agenda, like trying to get other stuff. And it's like, dude, you should love hearing, I'll see what I can do. And when you hear it, get out of the way. Let them do it. Okay, so we got an improved offer here. We got an improved offer. They bumped up the base to 210. They bumped up the equity to 680. We bumped up the signing to 85. So now the 4-year average is 401. The weird thing here, even though we got some good deltas here, is that, and once again, you're pretending you're Jake now. This is the curveball challenge. This is lower than what the recruiter told us he could get. So that's kind of weird, right? He said he could get this other thing and then he didn't. And then he tells us we can't get higher numbers without more data. Now, more data, more data, more data. Excuse me, more data, more data, more data. Some of you get tricked into more data and just start showing off your offer letters. In this case, if Jake would have showed off his offer letter, they would have seen a big 150 for base, and they would have seen startup, and they would have laughed us out of the room. So we obviously can't do that. Also, the recruiter says, this is the final offer, which you have all heard before. You all know you hear this. You all ask me all the time, when they say this, is this true? Let's find out. Real quick, recruiters do the same thing every time. They're going to try to get you to commit early. Go back to my notes here. They're going to say this is the final offer, even when it's not. And they're going to say we need more data. If you can get around these 3 cards, you are essentially an advanced Jedi negotiator. What would it take to make this deal done? What would it take to get you to sign today? All the answers are, look, I'm excited about this company. Make me your best offer and I'll give it my best consideration. When they say this is the final offer, if it's only the first time you've pushed, it's probably not true. If you've pushed 3 or more times, maybe it's true. But don't listen to that. Most of you don't push that many times. So when you hear this is the final offer, trust but verify. You need to verify before you can trust that that's true. And lastly, when they say we need more data, if it hurts you to give them the offer letter of a worse offer, do not give them that data. Give them the data that helps you. Like I showed you earlier when I wrote that rebuttal saying, hey, I can't share that because it just kind of feels unprofessional to me. But hey, here's what I can share instead. I'm looking for blank. I'm looking for blank is essentially just as good as that other company's offer letter. So say it and don't worry about giving them what they asked for. Okay, we decided time for the Mortal Kombat finishing move. If I can do X, sorry, if you, E-Corp, can do X, I will sign today. But the hardest question in negotiation is, what the heck is X? You want X to be as high as possible without being unreasonable. That's a thin line. As high as possible without being unreasonable. So we picked X. And for all of you who have been here before, you will notice the oddly specific numbers in the range. We chose these numbers, but we added those bullshit last 3 digits. Those are just bullshit. What we wanted was, we wanted 466. That's what we wanted. So we said, okay, let's give them a range where 466 is the middle, and let's add some bullshit numbers so it looks like we did the math and we did a whole lot of analysis to get to these special numbers, okay? So the counteroffer looks something like, and this is another thing where I shouldn't be giving this away for free, but hey, what are you gonna do? The counteroffer, pretty much all my counteroffers, they follow the same structure, and this is basically the structure, like, thank you so much. Compliment the company or the team or the product. I have another offer from a tech company. Even if you already told them, remind them. And now this is where it gets important. You want to make their job easy. Their job is making you more money. You want to make their job easy. Hey, just to remind you, the current offer is blank. Let's say the current total comp offer is whatever, 401.25. If you can increase the yearly TC to 464,187 to 468,625, then I'd sign today. Otherwise, I will have to take some more time to make a decision. Now, for all of you that read that last line and get scared, I would challenge you. Clear is kind. This is clear. If you do X, I will do Y. If you do Z, I will do Q. Also, We're using a leverage of time here. Time is money. If we tell them we'll decide sooner, that benefits them than if they have to wait a long time. So this line might seem scary to seem, but it's actually more clear. And in that way, they have a better expectation of what you're going to do. And that actually helps them. So clear is kind, be as clear as possible. Okay. For all my homies, for all my people, the final curveball challenge. E Corp replies to the Mortal Kombat finishing move. Guess what number they picked? Remember, we asked for 464, 187 to 468, 625. How much did they give us? $466. What'd they do? They split the difference. If you're surprised, you haven't been paying attention. Okay, so that was very fun. A little bit of a quick word about the negotiation offering that we have. We've helped a lot of people make a lot more money. We are motivated on the success of our clients. We don't care what it takes to get them there. So we do email support, we do phone support, and we do text support. And in terms of the payment, we probably are going to increase our prices one day because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, this guy got $100,000 more dollars a year and he only paid $3K. But for now, this is what our prices are. If we help you get at least $15K more in cash, then it costs $3,000. And if we don't help you get at least $15K more in cash, then you pay nothing. Obviously, people want to know, when should I sign up? And you should sign up when an offer is coming. I can help you. We can help you if you're too early, but not if you're too late. Okay, Q&A. Free roll, baby. Free roll. Okay, so I'm going to rank these questions by most upvotes. So maybe take a minute to upvote the ones that you like, and then I'll answer them in order. All right, and we're going to put this on the screen because hopefully the people on YouTube will actually be able to see this part, the actual stuff over here. Okay, cool. What if you don't have competing offers? So this is the most common question that I get. I will put this in Discord after, and I will also put it here now. So if I go over here on my LinkedIn and get this link, so I made a good slide deck called How to Negotiate If You Only Have One Offer. So I will now put that in the chat. Josh, it's a great question. It's a common question that we get. And then if you come to the Discord after too, I'll put it in there as well. Okay, next. Okay, what do you do if a recruiter says, yeah, so this is a scare tactic. This is emotional manipulation. If you don't tell me your comp expectations, we can't go to the next step because I don't know if we can afford you. Raj, for the record, if the recruiter worked at Google, what are the chances that that's true? That if they can't afford you, then they won't go to the next step? Zero, exactly. So if it's like a shitty contract job for a third agency recruiter, third party recruiter, that is the only scenario in which this is true. So what I'm saying is 99% of the time, this is a scare tactic, and you can still listen to the coaching that I do, which is to not say a number first. And I'll also put how to have that conversation about not saying a number first. I'll tell you the exact words to say in the pre-offer conversation doc. I will put this in the Discord as well, if you come, about how to talk to companies about money before you get an offer. And that's what you're talking about, Raj, before you get an offer. Okay, next. If they say this is our final offer, is it risky and may end up rescinding? So you have to understand that there's a lot of dynamics that go into play here. If they say this is our final offer and you haven't started negotiating, that's bullshit. It is not their final offer. If you hear this is our final offer and you've negotiated once, that's bullshit. It's not their final offer. Most of the time, 90% of the time, once you get beyond pushing more than one time, Then when they start saying this is our final offer, that's when it gets more likely. But I want you to all get used to the simple fact that offers do not get rescinded for negotiating. They get rescinded for bad behavior, where you do something that makes you seem like a risky employee to hire. So you can push 3 times and there will be no offer pulled, but you can leave money on the table if you only push 1 or 2 times. So get used to pushing 3 times. And if they say this is our final offer, the earlier in the process they say that, the more likely of it is that it's bullshit. How often do you bluff on what offers you have? It's basically the same question. You know what? I don't know, man. How often do you bluff? It depends on how you define bluff. Daniel, if we can throw the Discord in the chat, that would be cool. And say what up to Daniel. Daniel's in Tel Aviv. What up, Daniel in Tel Aviv? But yeah, it depends on how you define bluff. Like I bluffed on this situation because I didn't tell them about the lower offer that we had. But I didn't bluff in the sense of making up numbers. So honestly, how often do you bluff on what offers you have? I just think it depends on how you define bluff. I think the golden rule fits here. If it doesn't help you, then don't share it. And in that way, it's kind of like a poker bluff. So that would be my answer there. What signals do you look for to confirm that they're truly at the end of the negotiation and you're not leaving any more money on the table? If I haven't escalated it to the hiring manager, I'm leaving money on the table. If I haven't asked at least 3 times for more money, I'm leaving money on the table. Those are the simplest rules. What do you do if you've never held an engineering job before and this is an entry-level role? Do you ask on the high end for comp and work down from there? Every offer is, yeah, Artem, your life is going to change when you start making the money. Sorry, I'll read this out loud. What do you do if you've never held an engineering job before and this is an entry-level role? Do you ask on the high end for comp and work down from there? Every offer is already 4 times what I currently make, so I feel trepidation asking high. Good. Your life is going to change when you get a full-time foot in the door job. That's amazing. But if you were selling watermelons and I was selling watermelons and I was selling watermelons for $10, would you sell them for $5 because you just started selling watermelons? No, you charge 11 or $9.50 if you're really smart. So yeah, your skills have a market value. Your skills have a price. This is a capitalistic society. What should you do if you've never held an engineering job before? The same thing anybody else should do. You should not say a number first. You should push 3 times. When you're ready to say, if you can do this, I'll sign today, you should ask for higher than what you want. It's always better to ask on the high side. But once again, remember, how do you ask for something that's as high as possible without being unreasonably high? That's the only thing that you want to balance. Okay. For startups, I frequently hear, we are a small company. We cannot pay as much as Fang. What is a good rebuttal to this? Well, I've seen really small companies pay a shit ton of money. Personally, some of the best offers I've seen have been from smaller companies. I mean, even like Airtable. Oh God, that is terrible. I need to get that LinkedIn thing out of here. Okay, cool. So yeah, so sometimes smaller companies actually pay a lot. And yeah, so in that way, you never really know what a company is going to pay you until you get an offer. Like that's kind of the shitty part about the whole thing is like sometimes small companies pay less, but sometimes they don't. So, I mean, there are different ways you can get signal if a company pays good money. I like to, if I really like a company, I mean, if I'm at like later stages with a company, I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll look at like all the engineers they have. It's a startup, so they don't have that many. And I'll see like, are any of these engineers from like big name companies or like rocket ship startups, or did any of them have to leave a high paying job to come here? If I see none, I'm going to think they probably don't pay that well. If I see 1 or 2, I think maybe, but if I see like a good amount, then like I can just pattern match and say they probably pay well. So it's not something you necessarily need to rebuttal. It's just more something you either need to look into yourself and try to get some signal of them paying high. Another good signal is that they recently got a round of funding and just data you can find online. If you do hear that, it's kind of on you to do the due diligence to find out if they actually would pay higher. Yeah. What do you do? Oh, sorry. All right, that one. How do you feel comfortable asking for more money? Anand, you start asking for more money. Ask me for more money right now. And just I'm being silly, but you want to practice in a low stakes environment. I heard from one of the engineers I was working with recently that we should do a role play in our next webinar. So maybe it would be helpful for you to all like see somebody talk about money live. Please give me more money. My friend the other day, she just told her manager at performance review time, he was like, hey, it's performance review time. He did her performance review. He didn't give her a raise. And she was like, wait, Tim, I need money. That was all she said. And she got like a 9K raise. So just get used to doing it and practice in a low stakes environment. And maybe at a future webinar, we'll have more role plays. And then maybe even one day we'll actually have role playing with people like yourself. But you can always role play with your friends and practice in low stakes environments. How does Jake know an offer is coming? Because the company told him. The company said, hey, an offer is on the way, or we're going to make an offer soon. Or, what companies say after you do the on-site, they're like, well, we may have some good news for you. They say it in different ways, but how do you build rapport? People like other people that are like them and that are like people they want to be like. You build rapport by being like them or being like people they want to be like. And the simplest hack for building rapport is to look at a person intently and notice how they're breathing and to breathe with them. Sounds weird, but you can do it. You can even do it on the phone. Okay. How do you handle phone calls? By picking up the phone and saying hello. No, Shaker, I know what you're saying. Some people aren't comfortable taking a phone call negotiation. I personally think you can be more aggressive and you can actually have more lateral movement would be the analogy. If this were sports, you can change direction quicker in negotiation over the phone. So personally, I like that. If you do not like phone calls, do not do them. If you do not like phone calls, if the recruiter calls you, email them back and say, hey, I saw your phone call. It would help me out if we could do this over email. That's it. Yeah, so play to your strength, Shaker. That's the ultimate thing. What about the hiring freeze one? Yeah, Sora, so the question is, what about the hiring freeze company? What if that's the job they're the most interested in? Sora, yeah, hiring freezes suck. Let's talk about Google for a second. They're starting to unfreeze their freeze, and they're starting at the end of the funnel with candidates that got an offer. They're going to go through all those candidates, and then they're going to go to the ones that got through team matching. They're going to go to all those candidates, and then they're going to go through the ones that got to onsite, and they're going to go through all those candidates all the way down the funnel to the recruiter screen. Google's pipeline is going to be clogged till Christmas, okay? So if you want a job at Google, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It sucks. It sucks. Like, it's either look other places or get comfortable where you're at. I would settle in for the long haul personally, not like COVID long haul, but like, kind of a long haul. How do you say no politely if they ask to see other offer letters and there are parts that are weaker? Remember what we wrote earlier? Hey, it feels unprofessional to share that. I wouldn't want a company to hear that and then get angry at me, but here's what seems reasonable to share instead. That's exactly what you say. If you already have asked for a higher offer because of competing offer, this one's going to be tricky. If you already asked for a higher offer because of a competing offer, which is actually higher, and they ask you later on to share details about the offer, I think, Daniel, the question is the same here. We say, hey, I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing. My dad always told me never to kiss and tell. I wouldn't actually say that, but that's the idea. You just like, you move the goalpost and you're like, that feels bad to me. These are not the words that you should use, but you should say something like, I don't feel comfortable sharing, or that seems unprofessional. And then you can say, instead, here's what I can tell you. And then just tell them what you're looking for. Okay. I think I saw one sneak up here. What is your timeline for making a decision if company does come with an offer? So this depends on how you've structured your job search. Hopefully this question would never, the ideal use cases, right? The ideal use cases, I stack 5 to 10 on-sites of my top choice companies if within 1 to 3 weeks. And I tell all of them at the on-site, hey, if you end up moving forward, here's the date I'm going to be collecting offers, and I'll make a decision shortly thereafter. So if you did that, you would never get this question, but that's the ideal use case, and it doesn't always work out like the ideal use case. So what is your timeline for making a decision if company does come with an offer? My simplest thing to say here is, and we always stick to this principle, be positive but vague. You know what? I'm flexible for the right opportunity. I heard a guy say that back in the day who was a $150 an hour consultant for Tableau. He was like super smooth. And he said that to me. And I was like, that's pretty cool. What do you do if the recruiter gives you the salary bands up front for free? Hell yeah, that's awesome. So we always want to remember that the salary bands they give us might not be the actual salary bands. If I can pay William $500, am I going to tell him that? Probably not. If it's like the absolute max, I don't want to tell him the absolute max. So if I could pay him $500, I'll probably tell him it's, $420 or something. So it's just good data to have. And I think what you're saying is if they say, hey, we could do an offer of blank, does that work for you? The best thing there is that's lower than I was expecting, but it's in the ballpark of a good starting point. And I'm sure we can iterate on it later. We use the same moves, everybody. We use the same moves, and bans are a suggestion. They're not a law. That's exactly right. How do you say no politely? Oh, we already said that one. When we are negotiating, should we do it in email or phone? If email, how soon should we reply to the email? So yes, I will share the slides. You should play to your strengths. You should really play to your strengths. If you're a better talker, then do it on the phone. And if you're not, then do it over email. And if the recruiter tries to contact you in the form of communication that you don't like, just redirect them back to what you like. It's like, hey, I saw your insert communication thing I don't like. I'm going to stick to this from now on. And how soon do we reply? A good general rule of thumb is you want to reply within 24 to 48 hours, but I don't know. There's different situations where you wouldn't do that. Like the other day, me and somebody sat on an email for like 5 days because it like helped us to like gain leverage. So general rule of thumb is a day or two, but sometimes it's strategic to be different. And definitely don't think you always have to respond immediately. I think that's the worst thing that people do is they feel this need to respond quickly and they say stupid stuff. And that's not good. So yeah. What if I don't have a competing offer? Then read the doc that I put in the chat. How to negotiate when you only have one offer. It's a good slide. It's a really good slide deck. And I'll throw it in the Discord as well. And I will throw the other thing in the Discord too. So for everybody that came, we're going to put the recording on YouTube in about a week. I'll put the slides from the deck on YouTube, I'll put the slides in the Discord in the next week. And over the next week, I'll try to be in and out of the Discord just to be saying what's up to the people. So for right now, right on cue, we're going to head over to the Discord and we're going to start in the voice channel. And then we're going to go in the text channel. So the voice channel is fun because we get to interact with each other. But the text channel is good for the newbies that don't even know where we are yet, or they don't know that we exist yet. So if we have stuff in the text channel, then people can read it if they come next week. Yeah. Thoughts on give them a number and don't fucking budge approach? That's a great approach. Like, as long as you don't let them see that that's your card that you're playing, that is the best approach. There's a line from Heat where Robert De Niro says, what does he say? Never get so close to something that if you feel the heat around the corner, you couldn't walk away in 10 seconds or less. It's kind of how it is with offers. Like, you always want to feel like you could walk away if you had to. So you won't take anything less than what you're worth. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This was a really fun event.